The tissues. This is what type of tissues? Connective tissues we have done.
No, we have actually started. First three we did, and epithelial.
Types are human intelligence.
Epithelial we started.
Epithelial tissues. The other day I told you that types. What is this? This one, right? What is that? What happened? This one. What is one? I'm teaching you. You listen. Listen. Don't try to instruct the teacher in the classroom. Huh? We know what to teach. This is this is volume 2. Now you listen carefully, try to understand carefully. Don't keep jumping and trying to say anything that is not relevant in the classroom. Okay? Now, when we are talking about epithelial tissues, what did we learn? Some few characteristics I must have given, you know. Which are the general characteristics of epithelial tissues I gave. You take out your volume. This is second part. Take out your volume, all of you. Take out your volume, all of you. Take out your volume, turn to the chapter. You have your volume. Take out your volume, turn to the chapter. Epithelial tissues. The other day, we had just seen the basic characteristics. We are going to learn the types now. So, if I talk about epithelial tissues, the other day I must have told you that there are certain type of epithelial tissues we are going to come across this way. There are, this way meaning what? What did we learn? Some major characteristics we learned that if it is a type of epithelial tissue, the cells are always compact like this. They will be fast dividing. They will generally form the covering of an organ or the entire organism. At the same time, they have different types, and based on the types, the functions. We are going to learn now the different types, and this is one type. I may also talk about there are some other type of epithelial tissues like this, tall cells. And on top of those tall cells, there are some fine hair-like structures like this. In certain types of epithelial tissues we will come across, there are tall cells like this. And some cells are something like this, where they are capable of releasing some chemical substances. They are capable of releasing some chemical substances this way. Then there will be some other type of epithelial tissues where the cells are just small like this. Single layer of cells like this. Now, based on how the cells are, based on what type of function do they perform, we are going to understand some few functions. Now, whichever type we are going to talk about. What are the types we are going to study now? We are going to study types known as the squamous epithelial tissues. Second is stratified epithelial tissues. Third is cuboidal. Third is cuboidal epithelial tissues. Fourth is columnar. Fifth is ciliated columnar. Fifth is ciliated columnar. And sixth is glandular. So these are the 6 types that we are going to talk about. What are the types of, what are these? These are the types of epithelial tissues. What are the types? Squamous, stratified, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated columnar, and glandular. But first of all, try understanding something. We are going to learn locations of each one of these, but whatever the location is, based on the location, we are also going to remember the functions. What would be the function? The function of epithelial tissues would be either secretion. There are some type of epithelial tissues. There are some types of epithelial tissues which will be involved in the process of secretion, secreting something. Some epithelial tissues have the ability of secreting some substances. Some epithelial tissues are capable of secretion. Some epithelial tissues would be able to secrete certain substances. They can secrete certain substances. What else? What can be some other function that they would show? They would show functions like absorption. What is the meaning of absorption? Taking in. The epithelial tissues or the cells would be having the capacity of taking some nutrients or water or certain type of substances from the surrounding. Absorption. Secretion, absorption. Let us talk about one more type of function that they would have. Transportation. Always, remember. If it is a type of epithelial tissue, you will also come across some epithelial tissues or the structures that they form would also have the capacity of transporting something from one region to the other. Transporting something from one region to the other. So then, secretion is there, absorption is there, transportation is there, and protection also. So these are the four most important type of functions that we are going to come across. With this, now let us look into the volume one by one. You can underline the location as well as the function. Look at your volume here. There's a table. Only straight away from the table you are going to read. And the type of the tissues. I have drawn some diagrams. There are specific diagrams in the book also. Check the diagram, the one that is there in the textbook. Tick that diagram. You are supposed to remember those structures. Look for the diagram in the book also. The same is there in the textbook also. Similar type of diagrams are there in the textbook also. So you should be able to identify which one is stratified, which one is columnar, which one is cuboidal, etc. Now let us start with the first one. What is the first type of tissue there? What is the first type of tissue there in the table? Let us go by the table now.
What is the
glandular? Glandular. Now we talk about the squamous, the first type of tissue. Check in the table. Right from the table you are going to study. Squamous epithelial tissue. What is the location mentioned? Salivary glands. No, I'm sorry. Squamous we are talking about. Squamous will be present in the lining of the mouth. In the lining of the mouth and the food pipe. Lining of the mouth, food pipe. Underline the locations. And now from the location you should be able to relate the function. Let us study. I said the lining of the mouth. Lining of the mouth. What type of a function now they are performing? Protection.
Transportation of substances.
Next is I talk about. Tell me what are the other locations? Food pipe. Esophagus. Esophagus is the food pipe. So now that I talk about the food pipe, what is the job of the food pipe? To transport the food from the mouth to the stomach. Transportation. Okay. What is the other location given?
Blood vessels.
Blood vessels. So what type of function blood vessels? Transportation again. So when I talk about the squamous, just remember 2 to 3 locations. And remember, based on the location, the function is always associated. So that way you have to remember. Now to the second. What is the second?
Stratified squamous.
Stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Stratified. So now that I talk about the stratified tissues, what about the stratified tissues? Location is the skin and the cornea, the outer layer of the eye. So now these are absolutely dead when I talk about the outer layer of the eye and the skin. So what type of a function now that I talk about that they are forming the outer layer of the skin? Protection. The outer layer of the skin is dead and they does not allow any unwanted substances enter. So this is the protective function that we are talking about, protection. And now that I talk about the cornea, which is present in the cornea, cornea is what it is the outermost layer of the eye. So there also, the cornea can also release certain type of substances, watery substances to keep the eye moist. Secretion. Remember secretion meaning to produce something.
And even skin, right, and sweat.
Sweat, huh? The skin can also produce the sweat. Secretion.
Ma'am, what about saliva?
What about saliva? We are not talking about salivary glands at all. When we talk about salivary glands, then. So you have to remember, I'm constantly asking you, take up your volume. Where's your volume? Take up your volume, I say.
I didn't bring the volume.
You are supposed to bring. Every day I'm telling you, last time also I told you, get your volume every time. You have? You did not get. You should take up your volume. Look into the textbook also. Underline the location of the function that I'm discussing now. That is how you have to study. You're opening the textbook and constantly you are rubbing out something, erasing something. What are you doing? Which diagram? I did not ask you to draw this. Did I ask you to draw? Is he drawing? When there is a diagram, I'll ask you to draw, then only you will draw. Look into the book. You don't. Repeatedly, I'm telling you, look into the table, look into the table. He's also looking into the table. What both of you are doing? Are you understanding the language that I speak? aa raha hai samajh mein? Then follow if you are understanding. Now, follow. We talk about stratify. What will you study in this topic? How will you study this? You are not supposed to mug up anything. If you keep mugging, iska characteristic isme likhoge, iska isme likhoge, and you will get a big zero there. You will have to understand. That is what I am telling you. First, you should be acquainted with the names. In the volume, the diagrams are there. And I showed you also how they look like. Now, I'm just showing you the diagram for identification. How they look like. I did not ask you to draw. Did I ever ask you that you start drawing? Now we were talking about the squares. What is the location? What are the functions? This is only what we have to study. What is the location? What are the functions? See there in the textbook also the diagrams are there. Those diagrams you should be well acquainted with. You should be able to identify. Now the pictures are given, the diagrams are given in your question paper. You should be able to identify the type of cells which are thin. Let us talk about now. I started already with squamous, stratified. Stratified, what are some of the two locations? What are the two locations of stratified? The skin, cornea. And just now we were talking about, if it is the skin, the epithelial tissues forming the skin, what type of function they can perform? Protection. Secretion. Are we talking about the functions here itself? The functions that we are going to talk about all these would be something or the other from this group only. So what are the four types of functions the epithelial tissues show? Either protection or absorption or transportation or secretion. That much only, nothing apart from that. And one more we can add, we are going to come across, one more we can add special function, that is gaseous exchange. And that is only and only specific for the lungs, alveoli. Gaseous exchange, taking in of oxygen, giving out of carbon dioxide. So these are the 5 type of functions that the epithelial tissues can have. Come to the third type. What is the third type of tissues? Columnar. See the type of cells in the columnar. The columnar group of cells, this is what I have drawn. Columnar type of cells will be a little bit tall cells. The columnar type of cells are a little bit tall cells like this. Now these tall cells, what are the location? What is the function? Only this much to study. What are the location? At least 2 locations of columnar. Write out in your book also. 2 locations of the columnar. The stomach, gallbladder. Now if I talk about the stomach wall, if I talk about the stomach wall is always meant to release various different type of enzymes. The stomach wall is constantly releasing the enzymes. So secretion is a function. Absorption of vitamins and all. So if I talk about one location, I talk about a location and related to that the function as it is to remember. So I'm talking about the stomach. What type of functions will suit for the stomach? Secretion, the best function to remember because the stomach is constantly producing various type of juices. Here you don't have to write names of any type of a juice, but you know already that the stomach is producing some juices to digest the food. So secretion. What is the other one? We are talking the gallbladder. We talk about the gallbladder. What type of function the gallbladder generally brings about? The gallbladder brings about absorption also and transportation also. The gallbladder is storing the bile juice for some time and then again releasing it out into the intestine. So transportation functions we can talk about. Underline, keep underlining those terms in your book also if you come across. Number 4. What is the fourth one? We talk about
cuboidal epithelium.
cuboidal. Now we are talking about. Now this is what I'm talking about. The cuboidal is this type. This is the cuboidal type. This is how the cells look like. Is the diagram there in your book? Cuboidal, thin layer of cells, and the cells are just small cubes as if. But then these cells are compact. These are epithelial cells. Can they have any spaces in between? No, they will not. Compact group of cells. Where are they present? Now they are present in the tubes of the kidneys. In the kidney tubules, they are present. In the kidney tubules, they are present. In the salivary glands, they are present. So now, these type of cells that I'm talking about, the cuboidal, if they are present in the kidney tubules, what type of a function they have? They have this type of a function. The kidney tubules are always meant to absorb all the unwanted substances from the blood and throw them out. Absorption function. Salivary glands. What does the salivary gland do? The salivary gland is releasing the saliva. Can we say secretion function? Yes, the salivary gland is constantly releasing the saliva. So what type of function basically the cuboidal will have? The cuboidal will have either absorption or secretion function. 2 locations. Salivary glands and the kidney tubules I told you. What is the next one? What is the next one?
Glandular epithelium.
Glandular. Now this is the glandular. This is how the glandular looks like. In this entire arrangement of somewhat like columnar cells only, in this entire arrangement, there will be some cells like this, big cells, and these cells are actually known as the goblet cells. And what is happening in this goblet cells? Certain type of substances are getting formed. And now they will release on the surface of the skin. Now these type of cells are there in the skin also. And these cells are producing the chemical substances and they are releasing it on the surface of the skin. Can you name one such gland like this that we have in our skin? The sweat gland. A sweat gland. So now the sweat glands that we have in our skin are something like this. They are producing, the layers of cells are producing something and releasing something on the surface of the skin. What type of function? Which is that word, suitable word now? Secretion and protection also. So now that I talk about the oil glands, the sweat gland, the oil glands are releasing that oil and that forms a layer. Because of the layer, unwanted substances cannot enter. And the excess amount of water also does not go from our body. Excess evaporation also doesn't happen. Otherwise, now that it is so heated up and hot and dry, our body could have been dried up so much. No, it doesn't get dried up. Of course, we suffer from dehydration if you don't drink water or fluids for a long time. But still we can survive, no? Even if you're not drinking water in the entire day, then also we are able to survive. Because the layer of the skin and the oil which gets deposited on our face and skin and etc. prevents the water loss, does not allow so much water to be lost. What is the last one? We talk about ciliated epithelium. So how does the ciliated epithelium look like? Again, tall cells, and then they will have hair-like processes. What are these hair-like processes known as? These hair-like processes are known as cilia, fine hair-like structures. Fine hair-like structures, ciliated epithelium. Now this ciliated epithelium, what would be their function? Where are they present? They are present in the nasal apertures, in the nasal cavity. The ciliated epithelium is also present in the windpipe, the trachea. Underline those words. Trachea, the windpipe. And also in the tubules of the kidney. In the kidney tubules also they are there. So if I talk about this hair-like structures, the cilia, remember, they have a capacity of moving like this, propelling just like the wipers of the car. They can move. And now that they are moving, if I talk about the trachea, and the hair-like structures are constantly moving this side, coming this side, moving this side, coming this side. That is actually allowing the air to move inside the lungs much faster. And if these hair-like structures would not have been there, then the movement would have been slower. Just talk about the water which falls on the the glass of our car. If the wiper is there, it gets cleaned very fast. If the wiper is not there, the glass water has to dry out and it takes time. So exactly the same thing. So when we are talking about ciliated epithelium, what are some of the locations to remember? In the nasal apertures, in the trachea, in the kidney tubules. What does it help? Can we say it is helping in transportation? Yes, movement of the. It helps in the movement of the air. If I talk about the food pipe. And again, when we are talking about the similar type of ciliated epithelium in the nasal apertures, they also help in the release of the mucous substances and which is helping in the trapping of unwanted substances. So they can also show this type of a function, secretion. They can also show this type of a function. Now look at those diagrams as you are. Look at those diagrams there now. Look at those diagrams. First of all, get acquainted with each of those diagrams, and I give you certain questions which you should be able to answer. So, what are the 6 types of tissues we studied? The 6 types of tissues we studied. Number 1 was squamous. What are their names? Squamous, stratified, cuboidal, columnar. Another type of columnar is ciliated, columnar, and glandular. 6 types. Okay. Take one question. Take one question. Take one question. Write 2 locations each for. Right. First of all, you should be very, very clear about the location. Location याद रहेगा, तो function as it is याद रहेगा. Write 2 locations each for. Number 1, columnar epithelium. 2 locations each for columnar epithelium. 2 line gap छोड़ो या तो 1 line gap छोड़ो. Number 2, stratified epithelium. Number 3. Number 2, stratified. Number 3, ciliated epithelium. Number 4, glandular. ऐसे क्यों? Sit straight. Glandular epithelium. Glandular epithelium. Stratified. Next is number 5. It is.
Number 3 क्या था?
Number 5 is 3. What is it?
Number 3 don't.
What is number 3?
Ciliated epithelium.
Ciliated epithelium.
4.
Ciliated epithelium. Number 4 is what?
Cuboidal.
Cuboidal. Number 5, stratified.
No. Number 4 is glandular.
Number 4 is glandular. Number 5, stratified.
हो गया.
Stratified. I gave you glandular.
Yeah.
Ciliated epithelium दिया.
Yeah.
Columnar दिया.
Yes, ma'am.
Cuboidal दिया. Number 5 लिखो cuboidal. Stratified दिया.
Yes, ma'am.
Number 6 लिखो squamous. Number 6, squamous. Write 2 locations for each now. That's the first thing that you should remember. 2 locations for each. And once you remember the location, you're going to again tell me what type of a function they can have, they should have. First, write down locations. Don't take more than 5 minutes to finish this work. Find out 2 locations for each. Again, I'm repeating, both of you should get your volumes every day to the class. If you bring them, how come you don't? How come you did not bring today? It is mandatory, every day when you go to school, your rough book, your handbook, every day you carry. So when you come to the science lecture, you remember that the volume actually you are supposed to carry every day to class. Every day.
I actually want to use that. I send the NCRT, he should some volume.
Then
I think the NCRT is volume today.
so you forgot the volume today. You should have your own books. Why you have to depend? The school you are carrying so many books, and now you're not able to carry 2-3 books only. Books are not that heavy, no? And nobody comes walking, I suppose. All of you are coming by rickshaw or bike or car. Then done. Find out. You have to be, first of all, you have to be sincere in your work. Otherwise, remember, here we don't have any tablets to give you and then you score 99%. Not possible. See, look at him. Look at the other boy also. See, so sincere they are. I'm telling in front of him, I should not tell this way. But both of you are very lazy and very slow. Sorry to tell you this. Yes. Be alert in the class. Get your books properly. Get your own books. Why you have to depend this I will bring and that? How come they are able to carry? How come they are able to carry? See, look at your body language, the way you are talking. Look at your body language, the way you are talking. Come on, finish your work now. You are not able to find out the answers also now. When I am discussing, you are lost somewhere. When I am asking you to do some work, then also you take 5 minutes work, gets finished in 5-10 minutes. 10 minutes maximum to finish this work. You will take another half an hour to finish this work. If you yourself, you are not serious, nobody in this planet can make you understand. And remember, in any institution you go there, nobody has a tablet to give you and you drink, you eat up, and then you become the finest in any subject. Not possible. You have to have your own interest. Now you are struggling with that same book. The next class, each one of you have to have your own book and I'll make you sit separate. You're wasting time that way. And if I speed up, you will say that the teacher is so fast, we are not able to follow anything in the class. This is not the way for a 9th standard student. You have to be very fast, very prompt. It's just a 1 hour lecture. It's not 3 hour lecture. Aram se they are doing both of them. Nahi mil raha hai wo. When I am discussing, you are immediately able to find. See, he is also able to find out the words. He is also able to find out. All these days I just ignore, but now I cannot because almost 2 chapters we are done. By now you should have get accustomed with the stream and the method. Two months is enough time to adjust in any particular place and know the rules and the regulations of that place. Done? Got all the answers? Now next, this is about the epithelial tissue. So epithelial tissues you will learn only this way. Nothing extra. Diagram drawing is not there. You will never be asked to draw the diagrams. Only for identification. You will be given a picture. And you will have to identify. So the pictures which are there in the book, you have textbook. In the volume, we have given better diagrams so that you understand. But the diagrams in the book only, they will be picking up and giving you in the question paper. So you should be able to identify which one is stratified, which one is glandular, which one is cuboidal, which one is columnar. So get acquainted with those diagrams. Now next is what? We are left with connective tissues. So the last type of tissues that we are going to talk about would be the connective tissues. Now connective tissues like the others, again you need to understand some basic concepts and their types, differences, squamous and epithelial and the different types of tissues. Epithelial tissues was not much of an understanding, only the location function you are supposed to study. Next is we talk about the connective tissues. What are the different types? Connective tissues, what are the different types of tissues and their differences? The first type of connective tissue that we are going to talk about would be connective tissue proper. Connective tissue proper. The first type of connective tissue is connective tissue proper. Under this type of tissues, we are going to write down, we are going to understand two types of connective tissues. One is known as the areolar connective tissue. That is the first type. I am talking about connective tissue proper. I am talking about connective tissue proper. Now, under the concept of connective tissue proper, I am talking about the first type, areolar connective tissue. Where is this tissue present? This tissue is present beneath the skin. This tissue is present beneath the skin. What does it do? It connects. It connects the, yes?
This we have to write.
This you have to write. Areolar connective tissue beneath the skin and connects the skin to the internal organs. Connects the skin to the internal organs. So now, one particular function of the areolar connective tissue that we have to understand is it also provides elasticity to the skin. Provides elasticity. It provides elasticity to the skin. It provides elasticity to the skin. So that is the function of the areolar connective tissues. So now that I'm talking about the areolar connective tissues, the areolar connective tissues have a variety of arrangements. It may be connecting the skin to the bones, it may be connecting the skin to the muscles, it may be connecting the skin to the internal organs. So always to remember the areolar connective tissue, when we are lifting up our skin, when we lift up our skin, does it get separated from the internal organs? No. We can feel some pain. It's not so if you just try pulling it very hard, we feel some pain. That means there must be some tissues connecting the skin to the internal organs. But yes, with age, as we understand that with age, what is happening? This tissue becomes loose. So now, as we try holding, now I get some pain. But maybe by the time I'm almost about 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, the pain will be much lesser and I can pull it up till here. For you all, you'll be able to pull it up a little bit lesser than me because you all are younger than me. So now when we are much younger, I talk about a 5-year-old, 15-year-old, 25-year-old, 35-year-old, it will not be the same. Why? Because these areolar tissues that we are talking about keeps loosening with age. It becomes longer with age. So what is the function of such type of tissues? It provides elasticity to the skin. Provides elasticity. Now the next type that we are talking about, we are going to look into the next type of tissues. What is the next type of tissues? Adipose connective tissues. Adipose connective tissues. Okay. Adipose tissues. Another very important type of tissues that we are talking about. Adipose connective tissues. Now, where are they present? What do they do in our body? Adipose tissues, they are again present in the form of fat cells. They are present in the form of fat cells in the deeper layer of the skin, in the deeper layers of the skin, in the deeper layers of skin. So now that we are talking about the skin again is a thick layer, remember. The skin itself is a thick layer, many layers of cells. And in the deeper layer, a particular layer of the cell known as a skin known as the dermis, at the deeper layer of the skin, what's happening? There's a layer of fat cells. So something like, if I draw the layer of the skin there, the skin has got various layers like this. The skin has got various layers like this. So deeper there in the skin, there are some deposition of fat cells like this. There are some deposition of fat cells like this. And this type of tissue that we are talking about is the adipose tissues. From where does this fat cells come? From our diet. The surplus of fat always gets deposited in the bottom layers of the skin, resulting in the formation of the adipose tissues. What is its function? It acts as an insulator. It acts as an insulator. It acts as an insulator and prevents the loss of body heat. And prevents the loss of body heat. The loss of body heat. It prevents the loss of body heat. It acts as an insulator and prevents the loss of body heat. Okay, so what is insulator? Insulator means, say suppose I talk about the insulated bottles and the insulated flasks that we use. What happens there? The cold would remain cold for a long number of hours. The hot tea would remain hot for a long number of hours.
Protects us from the outside.
It does not allow the heat to escape also and the outside heat to enter also. No. Insulation, insulator. So what is the job of the adipose tissues that we have in our skin? It acts as an insulator, does not allow the heat transfer. Hence, our body temperature can be maintained. And if our body temperature is not maintained, what will happen? Just like the fishes and the frogs, every time we will have to hibernate or estivate. When it was in the month of May, we were active or we were sleeping? Active. Active, because we have this adipose tissues. We remain active because this heat, this layer of fat will not allow our body heat to escape also and enter also in large amount. Again, if I talk about people staying in the northern part of our country in the month of December, do they become active or they remain hibernated? They don't hibernate, then also they remain active because of the presence of the fatty tissues known as adipose tissues. The third, we talk about the third type of tissues. Okay, this is one that we were talking about is connective tissue proper. Let me talk about the second category first. Now we are going to talk about the fluid connective tissues. We are going to talk about fluid connective tissues and the subtypes. What are the fluid connective tissues that we are going to study? The fluid connective tissues again are of different types, two major types. The fluid connective tissue, the first that we are going to talk about would be blood. The first that we are going to talk about would be blood. Now that we talk about blood, at the second that we are going to talk about would be lymph. Now what is blood? I think all of you know what is blood. What is blood? Some of the features about blood, if you have to write down. It is the red colored body fluid. It's not so. It is the red colored body fluid. Blood is nothing but the red colored body fluid that we have in our body. And what is the composition of the blood? What is the blood made up of? The blood is made up of the plasma and cells. The blood is made up of the plasma and the cells. So when we are talking about the plasma and the cells, what is plasma? How will you define this word plasma? Blood is made up of plasma, I am saying. So what is the definition of this word plasma? Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. And what is it made up of? It is composed of water and salts. It is composed of water and variety of salts. It is composed of water and variety of salts. Plasma is made up of water and variety of salts, the liquid part of the blood. Then what about the cells now that we talk about? What about the cells? The blood has got three types of cells. What are the three types of cells? One is RBCs, red blood cells. Another is WBCs, white blood cells. And third is platelets. Platelets. The three types of cells that the blood has. So what is the basic composition to understand? When we are looking at the composition of the blood is made up of the liquid part known as the plasma and the cells. Three types of cells. What are the three types of cells? RBCs, WBCs, platelets. What about the functions about the blood now? If I talk about the functions, let us talk about functions of the RBC, WBC one by one. That also you can write down same as common functions of the blood. The first function I talk about RBCs. What does it do? RBCs help in gaseous exchange. RBCs help in the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. RBCs always help in the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now that we are talking about transport, what is the meaning of transport here? The blood is allowing, or the blood is capable of, now that the blood has got RBCs. RBCs can bind with oxygen and take the oxygen from our lungs to the body tissues. And from the body tissues, it can get the carbon dioxide back to the lungs. So So in the 10th standard, you will study these things again in detail. But as of now, only this much you are supposed to understand. What is the job of the RBC? The RBCs will always carry oxygen from one part of the body to the other and carbon dioxide just in the reverse direction. Oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. What is the next function of the blood? WBC. I talk about the role of WBC. What does the WBC do? WBC is help in. What does the WBC help in? WBC help in defense. This you should have been able to tell me because
Lysosomes.
not lysosomes. WBC is an immunity and all these things for 1-2 years you have learned, you have heard so much. So what is the WBC doing in our body? The WBCs are constantly helping in the body defense. Body defense. What is the meaning of defense? Help in defense. What is the meaning of defense? Defense means fight against disease causing germs. Here defense means fight against disease causing germs. The WBC is constantly doing this. That is the reason every time we are not falling sick. But every time we are exposed to so many germs and pathogens. WBC helps in defense. What next? What's the other type of cell left we have to talk about? Platelets. Platelets, what do they do? Platelets help in. Who can tell me platelets, what do they do? Platelets help in blood clotting. You know what is blood clotting? Whenever we suffer from any cut, wound, whenever we suffer from an injury, whenever we suffer from any bruise or any type of damage happening in certain part of our body, what happens? Or whenever we go for a blood test, etc. So now the skin is punctured, the blood vessels are damaged, and the blood starts oozing out. Now that the blood starts oozing out, does the blood start oozing and oozing and oozing for a long time? No, the oozing of the blood stops within few minutes or few seconds to few minutes. So within few minutes, maximally within a period of some 2 to 3 minutes, it should stop. Within a period of some 2 to 3 minutes, the oozing out of the blood should stop. And that will happen only when we have adequate number of platelets in our body. So if you don't have adequate amount of platelets in our body, no, even if a simple small blood test that we do and the bleeding would be profuse, and the bleeding may be profuse, and the person may have to take some medicines to stop the bleeding. Platelets. So now in the exam, when you are asked, write functions of the blood, the same function you can write. You'll have to write. Or write specifically the function of RBC, WBC, then specific functions you have to write down. So this is one type of a body fluid that we are talking about. But now this is not the only type of a body fluid that we have. We have got another type of a body fluid known as the lymph. We have another type of a body fluid known as the lymph. Now to understand that, first of all, we should understand that the blood is flowing in blood capillaries. Let me just show you one particular blood capillary. This is one blood capillary. The blood is flowing here. This is a blood capillary, a blood vessel, and the blood is flowing here. This blood capillaries, they have got small pores like this on their wall. The blood capillaries have got small pores on their wall. But what is surrounding the blood capillaries, you think? What should be surrounding the blood capillaries? What should be surrounding blood capillary? Capillary itself is a blood capillary. तो ब्लड कैपिलरी के आसपास क्या होना चाहिए? ब्लड कैपिलरी एक ट्यूब जैसा है जो हमारे बॉडी में almost everywhere we get. So what should be surrounding the blood capillary? ब्लड कैपिलरी के आसपास क्या होना चाहिए हमारे बॉडी में? टिश्यू, सेल्स, है ना? सेल. It is something like a tube which is constantly moving from one region of the body to the other. तो उसके आसपास क्या है? The layers and the lining of the different parts of our body. Stomach के cells है, intestine के cells है, bone के cells है, etc., etc. So this is what we are trying to understand, that surrounding this blood capillary always there are a whole lot of tissues. Surrounding this blood capillary always there is a whole lot of tissues.
And is there any specific reason for them to be surrounded?
नहीं, because capillaries are the finest blood vessels जो deep tissue तक जाके ऑक्सीजन को टिश्यू तक पहुंचाता है and कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड को टिश्यू से लेता है. Learn in 10th standard in detail all these things. So now that I'm talking about, so where are the capillaries present? Very, very deep inside our body, very close to the tissues and the cells. And now that the blood is moving, now I understand that the blood is moving under very high pressure. The liquid part of the blood is leaking out. The liquid part of the blood is leaking out. The liquid part of the blood is leaking out. and this fluid starts running over the cells. And what do we call this particular fluid as? This particular fluid is actually known as the tissue fluid. But this tissue fluid is just a temporary phase, because surrounding these blood vessels and the tissues, we have another set of tubes exactly like this in the shape of a fork almost. And this tubes, now this particular fluid which I'm naming, which is constantly running over the cells, they will start entering this set of tubes, and this set of tubes are always parallel to the blood vessels in our body. Talk about our hand, wherever the blood capillaries, just very close to the blood capillaries, another set of tubes are there. What are these set of tubes now known as? This set of tubes are known as the lymph vessels. This set of tubes are known as lymph vessels. This set of tubes are known as lymph vessels. And what is this fluid now that is getting entry? The fluid that is getting entered into these tubes are the lymph. So अभी ये lymph को मैंने red में draw नहीं किया. Why? Because the composition here and the composition here is different. So now I said when the blood is moving in the capillaries, because the blood capillary has got pores, because the blood capillary has got holes on their wall, the liquid part of the blood is running out and leaking out. I talk about a water pipe. This water pipe में हमने काफी सारे holes कर दिए, and I allow the water to rush. Will the water sprinkle and come out? Yes. बस उस water में मैंने कुछ छोटे-छोटे stones भी डाल दिए, मैंने कुछ छोटे-छोटे particles भी डाल दिए. Will these particles come out? Will the stones come out through those pores? Actually not. Only the liquid water, only the liquid or the fluid will come out. Same is happening here. Also, when the blood is moving through these tubes, only the liquid part of the blood. What is the liquid part of the blood known as?
Tissues.
What is the liquid part of the blood known as?
Tissue fluid.
Liquid part of the blood known as?
Plasma.
Plasma. लिखते जा रहे हो, लिखते. What you are writing, you don't even understand what you are writing. Now the plasma that we are talking about, this particular plasma, so this part of the fluid contains what? Does it contain all of the blood? No, blood के जो cells are absent here. That's why this is red, this is colorless. And this colorless fluid enters into these vessels. And then these vessels will go and join a vein. So now that I talk about this vein is a blood vessel again, which contains the blood. So this vein containing the blood, the lymph will also go and join. So that is how the lymph and the blood always mixes in our body. What I am supposed to understand right now is, how is the lymph formed? Lymph is another type of a connective tissue. How is the lymph formed? The lymph is always formed from the blood. Is that true? The lymph is always formed from the blood. The lymph is not a separate category of fluid altogether in our body. Every time it is formed like this, every time it goes and mixes with the blood. Every time it is formed like this, goes and mixes with the blood. Another thing for you to understand right now, then what is the difference between this fluid that we are talking about as lymph and this fluid, the blood?
And that has
Red in color, number one.
color.
This is colorless.
Colorless.
What about its composition? Plasma and three types of cells. What are the three types of cells? Platelets. What are the three types of? Are there cells here? No, not three types, but only one type of cell. So if I have to talk about what is this fluid now, this fluid is known as lymph, and it is a colorless body fluid. It is running in lymph vessels, and it is colorless. It is colorless. What would be its composition? Composition would be plasma, and cells, few only WBCs are there, nothing else. Cells, it will have few cells, and these few cells are known as the WBC cells. So few cells are WBC cells. We'll have to take one question now. Difference between blood and lymph. That's a very, very common question that you are asked. Differences between the blood and lymph. Write three differences between blood and lymph. Right. Three differences between blood and lymph. Let us write. Three differences between blood and lymph. Three differences between blood and lymph. What are the three differences between blood and lymph? Number one.
Mattress colors.
Make a table. Make a table. Make a proper table and then write down the differences. Make a proper table and then write down the differences. Please. See, these are lecture points. These lecture points you have to hear and listen. Hear and listen. Something that is very important, question, answers, diagrams, and I tell you that you have to write, that you have to write. These lecture points are optional for you. You want to write, you can write. If you feel that I can manage from the book, I will only listen to the lecture, then it is optional for you. In the 9th and the 10th, as you are growing, the method of study is absolutely different, remember. You are coming for the lecture, you will listen to the explanation. If you are fast enough, then you are obviously supposed to take down all the lecture notes. You are supposed to take down all the lecture notes.
And what will you write in this?
Did you make a table, blood and lymph? Now you write, number 1, under blood. It is a red colored body fluid. Red colored body fluid under blood. It is a red colored body fluid. It is a red colored body fluid. Other side, for lymph, it is colorless. Blood, red colored body fluid, and the other side for lymph, colorless. Lymph is colorless. Come to the next point. I'm sorry, complete the sentence. Colorless as it does not possess RBCs. Lymph, it is colorless as it does not possess RBCs. Sometimes you get a question, why is lymph colorless? It is colorless because it does not possess RBCs. Come to the next point.
If we write it doesn't have RBCs, is that also correct?
Same thing. Number 2. Number 2. Under blood. Consists of plasma. Under blood. Consists of plasma and 3 types of cells, that is
WBC RBC.
consists of plasma and 3 types of cells, that is RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Check the spelling for platelets and write correctly. Other side for lymph, it contains plasma. It contains plasma and only WBCs. Contains plasma and only WBCs. Third point. Under blood. It flows in blood vessels. It flows in blood vessels. It flows in blood vessels. Lymph flows in lymph vessels. Lymph flows in lymph vessels.
What can I repeat?
Lymph flows in lymph vessels. Blood flows in blood vessels. Blood flows in blood vessels. Okay. Now, tissues, we are only left with the last 4 types, that is fibrous tissues we will have to study and skeletal connective tissues we will study. So we are almost done with the chapter. Go through the chapter now, read NCERT, find out if every part of the chapter is clear. The next class will complete with this chapter and complete with some questions from the volume. See that all of you get the volumes. No sharing. I get this and he gets this.
In